This is a Tim Hortons, man. Look at that. They're not cleaning it.
Timmies want more immigrants. They've been asking the government to allow them to hire more foreign workers.
Today we're diving into a topic that has been brewing for a while. The fall of Tim Hortons, Canada's once untouchable coffee giant.
Youth are the most depressed they have ever been, and they are being denied opportunity time after time.
Listen, Tim Hortons, when you hire people, I don't care if they're immigrants or whatnot. I don't care.
Okay, so I want to share this with you. I just left Tim Hortons, and I don't go there very often because I like to shop Canadian, and I don't think that's very
CBC News revealed coffee giant Tim Hortons is pushing to hire more temporary foreign workers.
Get a load of this, eh? Tim Hortons over the last 18 months was squeezing the government like a stress bulb until they coughed up more foreign workers.
Tim Hortons lobbied the government to increase the amount of foreigners that they could hire.
Welcome to the Canadian Rant. Something is deeply wrong in this country, and today's story proves it. Young Canadians are working hard, graduating with debt, trying everything, yet they still can't find stable jobs. They're told, work harder, get more experience, apply everywhere. But when they go to apply, the doors are already closed. Because while Canadian youth are struggling just to get an interview, Tim Hortons is lobbying the government to bring in even more temporary foreign workers, not to help people here, not to give opportunities to the next generation of Canadians, but to keep wages low, keep labor costs cheap, and keep profits high. Multiple lobbying meetings, multiple pushes to lift hiring caps. And for what? At a time when hundreds of thousands of young Canadians across the country are unemployed, underemployed, living with parents, and losing hope, a massive Canadian corporation is fighting to not hire them. We're told there's a labor shortage, but if there's really a labor shortage, why are our own youth still jobless? Why are Canadians sending out 500 resumes with no response? Why are qualified young people being rejected for minimum wage positions? This isn't a shortage, it's a strategy that puts corporate profit above Canadian workers.
Timmies want more immigrants. They've been asking the government to allow them to hire more foreign workers for the last year and a half. While the youth unemployment rate sits at around 14%, we're led to believe that young people just don't want to work. And I'm sure we can all agree the real reason is immigrants are taking the jobs. But it's not always their fault. Yes, there's way too many temporary workers in the country, I'll say this right now. But think about it, they need to work in order to avoid facing deportation. That means they'll take literally any job they can get. Plus, anything is better than what they had at home. Higher pays, better working conditions. They're also a dream for companies. Low-skilled labor requires hardly any training, they'll never ask for a raise, they'll never complain, and they'll work longer hours. They know that if they quit or get fired, they face deportation. I said not always their fault, because some of them who own businesses will only hire people from their own countries, and that's a problem. But the rest are just playing the system. Hate the government, not the people.
Today we're diving into a topic that has been brewing for a while. The fall of Tim Hortons, Canada's once untouchable coffee giant.
The customer uttered racial and derogatory slurs, police say, and also spat on the employee before leaving.
From its iconic status as a symbol of Canadian culture to recent controversies and declining sales.
Sometimes it comes in the iced coffee packet also. It happens.
What do you mean it happens?
We're exploring what's gone wrong and how immigration, particularly the temporary foreign worker program, has stirred up the coffee industry.
There are 16,000 more people unemployed in Ontario than there were in the Great Recession.
I'm hitting the streets to hear what real Canadians think about Tim Hortons' changes, the quality of their coffee, and a bigger picture of immigration's role in fast food.
Get a load of this, eh? Tim Hortons over the last 18 months was squeezing the government like a stress bulb until they coughed up more foreign workers. So basically the arbiters of immigration in Canada are the same ones who fuck up our coffee order once a week. Now, in fairness, when the workload eases and the workers become sparse, we bitch and complain like the rents do. But the big question is, are they importing bargain bin workers because of corporate villainy? Because they want to slash everyone's wages, Yugoslavians, North Koreans, South Koreans, Chechens, everyone, us, everyone, slash everyone's wages and just make a very bleak Canada.
Tim Hortons lobbied the government to increase the amount of foreigners that they could hire. And before you say something racist, this is not about the people or where they are coming from. This is about the multi-billion-dollar international corporation that is taking advantage of Canadians and international workers. This is about these people who are trying to come here for a better life. They are also being taken advantage of, just as Canadians are being screwed over as well. With Tim Hortons lobbying MPs over the last 18 months, they were trying to have the cap raised from 20% to 30%. It has now been lowered to 10%. And this is predatory behavior from a former Canadian institution. It is insane to me that you could say that the restaurant and service industry is experiencing any form of worker shortage when there is a mass amount of young people and elderly people and just people in general who are without work right now in Canada. And for all you armchair leftists out there, being against temporary foreign workers is not a right-wing thing. Because when we bring in more temporary foreign workers and when we increase levels of immigration beyond what is sustainable, what happens is that wages for regular Canadians get suppressed. And those workers get abused by companies like Tim Hortons. It's a lose-lose situation.
Listen, Tim Hortons, when you hire people, I don't care if they're immigrants or whatnot. I don't care, really. Just make sure they speak English, okay? Speak English. Because even as a brown guy, I sometimes don't understand what's happening in there. Their accent is so thick, so thick. Even me, even though I put on accent sometimes, I did not understand. When you hire, please, nothing wrong with hiring immigrants, but they need to speak English. English clearly. Clear English. Even if it was like, hey, can I have a medium double French vanilla and some bagel cream cheese? At least I somewhat understand that, right? There's some people in there like, do they even know English? How did they get the job? Did they interview you, you boss of Tim Hortons? Most of you guys are white, by the way, the bosses. When you interviewed these people, did you understand what they were saying? Let me know in the comments below that hiring immigrants, subsidizing. So there's a difference here. If I was an immigrant, I came to Canada, I'm working hard and I need a job, that's different. But these companies are hiring immigrants because they're subsidizing, they're paying less. The government is paying them to hire these immigrants, so they pay less. I worked at Tim Hortons. I made sure my English was good. Well, I was born here, so it should be good. But even I worked with immigrants from other countries. They did a fantastic job speaking English. Sure, they had accents, but that's fine. It makes us unique. I love accents. Anyway, let me know in the comments below what do you think about that. Like, nothing wrong with hiring immigrants, but they need to speak English and stop subsidizing, you bunch of government bastards.
This is a Tim Hortons, man. Look at that. They're not cleaning it. Look at that. Is this the Tim Hortons? Like, is it Tim Hortons or Sing Horton? Holy shit. Excuse me, guys. Hello. Why don't you clean the washroom? Look at go and see the washroom. I just recorded. The washroom is pretty nasty. You guys, how many people are working here? Why can't you clean it?
Every time some people come.
It doesn't matter. Why don't you people coming here? Look at these people want to use the washroom. And I just recorded. I'm going to send to the headquarters. You guys are doing nothing, staying here, and then you got to clean it. Doesn't matter.
How many times should you clean?
My man, people come and go.
Yeah.
It is your responsibility. It is your job.
Yeah.
You can't say how many times.
We are doing it.
Not only you.
You just finished
Not only you. I saw so many places.
Excuse me, you cannot do it. Then I will call the cops.
Call the cops, yeah. Do it. It's my rights. It's a journalism. Okay? It's called social media journalism. You think I'm scared of the police? You think I'm scared of the police? Why don't you clean the washroom? I can't believe it. The washroom is pretty nasty. And then he's saying the phone, you think I'm scared of the police? You think I'm scared of the police? This is called journalism, freedom of press. Please clean the washroom, bloody hell. That's what all you're asking. People can't go there. How many people are working at Tim Hortons? I'm going to send this to the corporate. People can't use the washroom. How many people are doing nothing? Did you see the washroom inside? This is nasty, man. This is a Tim Hortons that I saw 20 years ago. It's crazy. Please do your job. That's all we're all asking. You can call the cops, you can call the RCMP, call the FBI, whoever you want. This is called freedom of press.
Enjoy your lunch, guys.
Yeah, thank you very much. I can't believe it. This video is gonna go to corporate. Thank you. Have a nice day.
CBC News revealed coffee giant Tim Hortons is pushing to hire more temporary foreign workers, or TFWs. In late October, it held lobbying meetings with Liberal, Bloc Québécois, and Conservative MPs, making the case to renew expiring work permits faster, according to former Immigration Minister Mark Miller.
I'm sorry, I can't believe that there aren't Canadians across the country that won't do these jobs.
The Bloc's Alexis Brunel-Duceppe says in July they were looking to raise the existing cap on TFWs in his writing from 10 to 20% of employees.
It's actually very predictable that they would request higher caps, easier ability to hire temporary foreign workers. I'm not surprised at all.
But caps are not the main concern for this professor. She says foreign workers are prone to exploitation by employers, and that's where Ottawa needs to act.
We need a much more robust system for ensuring that employment standards are upheld.
Ottawa did make changes in August of 2024, but Tim Hortons' lobbying efforts go back further. In May of last year, a company representative wrote a letter to Mark Miller, released under an access to information request, asking him to bump the cap up from 20 to 30%, arguing the cost of being in business continues to rise and it is more challenging to hire in many markets. Tim Hortons says most of its 100,000 employees are local hires, but it needs TFWs to fill gaps in smaller and rural communities.
As an employer, I have a vision. I need people, and they're here as a temporary foreign worker.
The government says it cannot predict future policy decisions, but it did design the TFW program with flexibility in mind.
So in Canada, we have a youth unemployment crisis. Youth unemployment rates are through the roof. Youth are the most depressed they have ever been, and they are being denied opportunity time after time. If you guys don't know who this parent company is, Restaurant Brands International, get familiar with them. They're the ones who own Burger King, Tim Hortons, a number of other restaurant chains. It just came out that Tim Hortons was pressing Ottawa to lift the caps on TFWs for its franchises, lobbying MPs, even as they tighten the program. Absolute ridiculous stuff. We have a youth unemployment crisis. Youth need these entry-level jobs. We can have an argument whether youth actually want to work or not, but they need the opportunities provided to them. Maybe a brand like Restaurant Brands International should provide a better working environment, because often these jobs suck, and no wonder they reach out for TFWs. And you know what? People are going to say, well, the youth don't want to work, the youth don't want to work. You should also be realizing that TFW work is essentially slave labor. These people are brought over here. They have their permanent residency, their green cards held over their heads by their employers. Employers are actually scamming the TFW system, making employees pay them to give them a job. It's insane. This whole system is broken. It needs complete reform. And as a Canadian, I can't stand by and not speak up on this. It's disgusting, the abuse and the fraud in the TFW program. And we have a global multi-million-dollar company begging the government to give them more TFWs. Gross.
So just when you thought you couldn't dislike Tim Hortons enough, CBC publishes this news article. Tim Hortons lobbied MPs for more temporary foreign workers over the last 18 months. On one of the letters sent to Mark Miller back in 2024, the food service industry sector was disproportionately hit hard in the pandemic and continues to face unprecedented labor shortages. They were asking to raise the cap of temporary foreign workers being able to work at Tim Hortons from 20% to 30%. The ironic part was later that year, the government reduced it to 10%. So while Canadians were fighting for the government to do something and force companies like Tim Hortons to employ Canadians again, Tim Hortons has been pretending to be Canadian and doing everything they can to screw the Canadians over. Hey Tims, do you know why fast food restaurants and industries were hit the hardest during the pandemic? It was because the people employed in them were considered essential workers. And they thought to themselves, why am I putting myself in danger and being forced to work for unlivable minimum wage while these welfare kings and queens can stay at home and collect $3,000 a month? You don't have labor shortages, you have a shortage of people that are willing to work and put themselves in danger for an unlivable wage. So they said, forget that, we'll come back when you pay us more. Tim Hortons has done everything they can to screw over Canadians while hiding behind their Canadian history. This is like a bad spy movie where the guy is clearly not Canadian and he's just dressing up in what he thinks is Canadian and just laying it on thick by changing all their symbols to maple leaves. Like Tim Hortons, it's 2025, man. All the information's out. Everyone knows the international student program, the TFW program, was just ways to find cheap labor in a market that wanted more pay. And are we really still citing the pandemic? It's been half a decade. The rest of us Canadians have to find a way to survive in this market. So can Tim Hortons.
Okay, so I want to share this with you. I just left Tim Hortons, and I don't go there very often because I like to shop Canadian, and I don't think that's very Canadian anymore. So I'm in there in a pinch, and I walk in. The store is completely dead. There's like 3 old people sitting at a table having a tea. And I see this black woman at the counter, and I'm like, oh, thank God, there's a black woman at the counter. So I'm like, this is going to go better than usual, right? All I want is a muffin. So I get there and she's like, oh, hi. And I'm like, hey, how's it going? Anyways, she peels away and then some brown chick shows up and I'm like, okay, hi. Can I have a blueberry muffin? She's like, oh, okay. Grabs the muffin, puts it in a bag. I've already paid for it. It's just us. No one else around. Walks all the way down to the end of the store and sits it on the little platform like somehow I'm waiting for a sandwich or something. I looked at her. I was like, yo, like I'm over here, man. Like, right in front of you. 2 feet was the muffin, 1 foot was me. What's with the 12-foot walk? Like, am I just crazy, man? Or like, everywhere I go, they're not getting the picture. And I'd love to coach them all up, but honestly, I'm already a parent to 3, and I just don't have the time to have employees and kids and start coaching up new Canadians. I don't know, man. What do you guys think? Like, fuck.
I tried to stitch a video this morning, but for some reason TikTok just keeps crashing, and it's something that I kind of wanted to talk about, and it was a news story that actually CBC News kind of broke. So we're gonna dive into this and we're gonna talk about it. So it appears that over the last 18 months, Tim Hortons lobbied MPs, federal MPs, for more temporary foreign workers in the last 18 months. Tell me that you are bringing in too many of these temporary foreign workers and don't see it as a problem. And this is the problem right here. You know, I think at this point, Tim Hortons has pretty much proved to pretty much everybody in Canada that they are the biggest user of the temporary foreign worker program, without a doubt. And the problem I have with it, yeah, it's exploitation, it's, you know, abuse of these temporary foreign workers, because in the eyes of the Tim Hortons franchisee, they don't have to provide these people a living wage when they come over to Canada. No, you can get 7 or 8 of them into an apartment and have them live in there, and during their whole time pretty much just work at a Tim Hortons. Now, a couple of years ago, the UN, in one of its committees, had compared Canada's temporary foreign worker program to the equivalent of almost modern day slavery. And the thing is like, rather than kind of take a moment and take a step back and say, you know, maybe we are got to look at this a little more equivocally, Tim Hortons continues to want to tap into that program more and more and more. And I mean, I probably even at this point, or at this juncture, that their parent company, Restaurants Brands International, tells them to do it so that way they could keep their operating costs down, and then they can be that heavily dependent on the subsidies that they get from the government for bringing in temporary foreign workers. And I mean, over the years, like the negative press that Tim Hortons has received from the temporary foreign workers program has been well documented. We had seen stories such as in Blairmore, Alberta, and Fernie, BC, a franchise owner who had owned those particular locations was forced out of the company, lost his franchises because he would make his temporary foreign workers work 12 to 14 hours a day, and then whatever overtime that they had received, they would have to pay that overtime back to that franchisee. Or a Tim Hortons franchise owner who wanted to purchase an entire apartment complex down the East Coast and force residents out of the apartment building. Now, I don't think he was successful on evicting those tenants, but his sole purpose for that was to house temporary foreign workers. And I mean, the list just gets piled on and on and on. Their spokespeople, I have learned that in the last few years with their spokesperson, whoever gives out the statement and says that this is not the case, they're literally full of shit. They are. And I mean, this story proves it, that they are probably the biggest users in Canada of the temporary foreign worker program. And I mean, geez, like 30 years ago, Tim Hortons was a great Canadian brand. And, you know, ever since the expansion of the temporary foreign worker program under Stephen Harper and the Conservatives in 2011, this has spiraled out of control. And now you're even having the Conservative Party saying that this program needs to go because Canadians themselves are having a hard enough time trying to find a job. I do recall seeing a post on a subreddit where somebody had said that they had taken their son or their daughter out looking for a job, and they sent them off to a Tim Hortons location, and they were told by Tim Hortons management that they would not get hired because that's all they hire is temporary foreign workers. Tell me you don't have a problem without telling me you have a problem. And this is evidence that this is a huge problem for Tim Hortons. It's like, I'm going to put my hand in the cookie jar and I'm not going to get caught taking a cookie. And let's see how many times I can do that over and over again without getting caught. Now, over the last several years, like my usage of going off to Tim Hortons has actually decreased. And it's not just like Tim Hortons. It's a lot of other restaurants too that rely heavily on temporary foreign workers. Last week I went off to a restaurant in Edmonton, and I was surprised on how many, because I hadn't gone off to this particular restaurant, and I'm not going to name it, in a lot of years, and I was really surprised that the wait staff was all temporary foreign workers, and it was something that I didn't really feel comfortable with, because before, when I would go to that restaurant, it wasn't like that at all. I mean, the program itself needs to be fixed. The hospitality sector, they need to really kind of clamp down on that. But are they going to? As in, is the government going to clamp down on this? And the thing is the Conservatives sell the message of getting rid of the program altogether because they want to gaslight and they want to get people riled up for that. I don't think it's not the answer. I think hard caps and maybe phasing out certain sectors from accessing this program. I mean, I'm sorry, but, if Tim Hortons goes out there and says, well, we still have 100,000 Canadians that are still working for that, I don't believe any of those numbers. I really don't. And that's my take on that. Man. What a world we live in. That's all I got. We'll talk soon. Sixth day of work again. Oh well. It's almost done. All right. Later.
Let's be clear. Young Canadians didn't fail. The system failed them. When a country reaches a point where its own youth can't get entry-level jobs, when companies are fighting for cheaper labor instead of investing in the people who actually live here, that's not just an economic crisis. That's a national identity crisis. Because a nation that refuses to support its youth is a nation with no future. We're raising a generation that feels defeated before they've even started. They're drowning in student loans, unable to afford housing, and now, somehow, can't even get a job pouring coffee in their own country. And then we wonder why young Canadians are leaving Canada, why they're losing hope, why anxiety, depression, and burnout are skyrocketing. This isn't laziness. This isn't entitlement. This is a country that has abandoned its youth. And here's the truth. Nothing is going to change unless we talk about it, unless we push back, unless we refuse to be silent while corporations shape government policy behind closed doors and everyday Canadians pay the price. So if you're watching this, speak up. Tell your story. Tell your struggle. Tell the world what's really happening. Because if we don't talk about it, they will continue to pretend nothing is wrong. Drop your thoughts in the comments right now. Have you or someone you know struggled to find work in Canada? Do you think companies should focus on hiring Canadians first? I read every single comment. And before you go, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Not for my ego, but because the only way to create change in this country is by spreading the truth that no one else will say out loud. This is the Canadian Rant, and we are just getting started.